Hey guys, I'm Doolin and this is Tablenauts, and thank you so much for watching and coming back. If this is your first time watching, I'm normally joined by a variety of other people, but every once in a while, I'll give you guys an update on where my collection is at, what games I've played solo, other things like that. Dings. Great job. And not too long ago, I posted a video how just a ton of stuff that I've backed over the years has finally started arriving, and even more things, including one giant Castle Panic Deluxe box, has taken up a lot more of my space than I anticipated. With that has come a need to get rid of some games that are in my space that I'm no longer playing, that some of them I really like, some of them I'm not too fond of, and we're gonna discuss from my favorite down to my least favorite, all the games that are leaving my collection right now. To start, there is one game that is a bit of a cheat because we can no longer play it anymore, but it is a game that Emily and I absolutely love to play all the way through. There were 3 sessions, and then now we're going to be passing it along because it had this cool envelope at the bottom that allowed us to remake the game or rebuild the game with pieces that we had to tear up or mess up. And that is the Emerald Flame by Post Curious Games. And again, this is one that, strictly speaking, we saw the box at PAX Unplugged, and Emily immediately was like, we have to get it. It's a must buy. It was on my list to check out, and she was like, we gotta get it. And so we got it, and it's easily one of the best like escape room in a box, narrative based one-off style games of mystery, of solving puzzles. It's absolutely cool, and it's really difficult, but you can go at your own pace, and it isn't a put in your answer and you pass or fail. It's simply you go until you get it right, and it's awesome. If you're a puzzle fan, I can't recommend a game enough other than the Emerald Flame. And I would say, before we pass this on, Emily and I will probably talk about this a bit more, so I'm just gonna go ahead and set this off to the side. The Emerald Flame, great game. Easily the best of the bunch that are having to be culled. Number 2 is a game that I have only played solo, and that is because it is a solo-only game. This is in Renegade Games' solo series, and it's the first one they released, called Proving Grounds. And this one is a arena battler using cards and dice, and it was made by Kane Clanko. And if you know Kane Clanko at all, you know that it is going to be a real-time dice manipulating game. This was a blast to play. I immediately recognized the influence of the designer of Fuse, which is a really fun card-based dice manipulation game. But the problem with this one is that I didn't think that it really had legs. There was a lot of variety to the game that you can throw in and you could keep playing, but after about 10 plays, I'd say I felt like I'd seen enough. It did have a really cool short story that you could flip through and read, but unfortunately, unlike the next games in the solo series, there wasn't like a campaign that you could play through, and I would say that the Solo Hero series has only gotten better as time has gone on. This is easily my least favorite of the 3, but if you are looking for a good solo game that will last you a little while, it's not that expensive. I think that it was absolutely worth the amount of money that I paid for it. So check out Proving Grounds. Great solo game, just not as good as many others that I have in my collection already, so I'm not going to be choosing this more than the 10 times that I already have. Number 3 is going to be a bit of a surprise because it was a huge surprise to me. I've not really heard many people talk about this game, but to be fair, I think it came out in like 2017, which was a year that I wasn't really paying much attention to board game YouTube, at least as much as I am a part of it now. But this is from AEG, called Atelier, the Painter's Studio, and I can actually check the year it came out, 2019, so it's still fairly new, 4 years old. This is a game that I got at, I think at Gen Con. It was the last day of Gen Con, and they were trying at the AEG booth to just have crazy sales to get rid of a lot of the stock that they had, and this game was still wildly available, so it became one of 3 games that I can't remember the other 2 of that they were just giving away with copies of any other game that you purchased. And we purchased, I think it was that old wallpaper we purchased, and they were like, here, you get one of these for free. And we saw this one, and the cover was engaging enough that we were like, let's buy that one, or get that one. And I had zero anticipation of what it would be. I had no really preconceived notions that it was going to be like a great game. And I think that helped. It definitely, I was going into it thinking, I'll play it a few times and then be able to say a few words about it and then be done with it. But it's an interesting set collection, worker placement style game. If you are into art or something that's kind of easier for like families to learn, but still has a little bit of crunch to it, this is a really decent little game. I think that there are other games that are similar to it that I would probably choose to play over it. However, I think that this could be a game that some people would fall in love with, and so easily number 3 for me. I would say that the top 3 separate themselves from the rest quite a bit, but this is a game that I don't think hit for anybody else that I played with really other than me, and you can't play it solo. And thankfully AEG has been putting out some games that if you're the only one who likes it in your family, you can play it solo, but this one did not have a solo mode, however, so it will not be one that is staying because I don't think it will really get played much more than it already has. Next up, we have a game that is a roll and write that just only got played twice, and it was not a huge hit for me, but it wasn't horrible. But this is also by Renegade Games. I'm not trying to pick on Renegade Games. I'm sorry if they feel that way if they're watching this video. I have plenty of games that I love by you guys. But this is Lanterns Dice, and this one is just meh. It's not gonna be played nearly as much as other roll and writes, such as Dungeons, Dice, and Danger, or Merchants of Magic, or Riverside, probably Emily and I's favorite roll and write. But this one is like a polyomino style game, which should hit for us, but it just didn't. It was okay. It was not certainly one that I felt like we needed to return to after we learned and played it. But if you like roll and writes, maybe one that you should check out. But certainly if you hear roll and write polyomino, and that's immediately gonna hit for you, I would check it out. But other than that, maybe a pass for most of you. Number 4 is a game that if I had just a million years, right, and I could play a whole bunch of games, and even if they weren't as good as other games in their category, I would still get to them eventually. If I had unlimited space, it would definitely not be leaving my collection. But it's a big game that I've tried once, learned the rules to, and then it just, you know, with games like this, where it's cooperative and it's fighty and there's a kind of a campaign aspect to it, it's gotta be really good because it's coming up against games that I have yet to finish that are going to be vying for its time. When I'm ready for a campaign game, it's gonna be ISS if I'm by myself. If it's gonna be with Emily, we're gonna play Plaid Hat, we're gonna play Familiar Tales and try to finish that game. We still have yet to get to the 3rd in that series, or 4th in that series, Aftermath. And if I'm with my buddies, I'm gonna wanna return to Oathsworn, or try something that we haven't tried, like Clank Legacy. There's just a lot in that realm, and so this one is leaving because I just don't see it getting time over those. And this is a game that I bought with a lot of hope because it was just so darn cute, but this is Wonderbook. And I think maybe I'm just not the target audience for it. I often like really cute, maybe even easy games to learn and play, but this one felt way more kid-friendly than me-friendly. So I think if you're a family, this is gonna be perfect, and I'm probably gonna gift this to a family that I think will enjoy it and play it, but not as big a hit for me as I was really hoping it would be. Cute box, really cute miniatures inside, but definitely not necessarily for me. Number 5 is a little game that I bought on a whim because I was stuck at the mall for like 2 or 3 hours, and I saw this game and it had Azul-like tiles in it, and I was a sucker for it. And this is Kodinka, which is by Backspindle Games, which I apologize, I've never heard of you guys before. This is actually pretty fun. I played this a few times, and it's a tile manipulation game where 2 to 4 players, really only 2 I think is the way to play this, because there's a lot more strategy, 3 maybe. But this is a game where you are flipping over tiles to try to build out a very specific pattern that you're vying for. And I would say the reason that I immediately thought, I don't necessarily need this anymore, is because I played a couple of other games similar to that that I thought were just way better. Number 1, and the one that I'll probably end up buying and owning eventually, just because I really like the theme and I really like the box and I really like the game a lot, is The Mirroring of Mary King. And this hits some of those same feelings, but I think it's just not quite as good. But if you're looking for a very small box game that is very fun for 2 players, I would say this is maybe a try for you. It's definitely not hit for me, but it has like the cool magnetic box and it has those Azul tiles, and maybe give it a try. I don't know. Number 6 is the one that I think I'm gonna get a little bit of hate for, but it just wasn't. I played it a few times, I liked it. It just felt a little too luck-based, especially when you win, and you win very easily. It's like, okay, well, I just kind of wasted my time. But I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it, the next up, I think it's like 7th place in this, is Onirem, with the 7 expansions inside the box. Shady Torbay is a very beloved, or I apologize if I'm not saying your name right, but this is a very beloved solo cooperative game, and it just didn't hit for me. I played it only solo, so maybe that's my problem. Maybe I need to play it with somebody else, but it's just meh. The art, meh. It's cool. It's gonna hit for a lot of people, and I know it already has hit for a lot of people. Some people were very baffled when I first said, it's okay, when I was talking about it, but it's not for me, and I'm gonna sell it and get it to somebody who will appreciate it a lot more than me. So it will not be in my collection anymore, but Onirem, moving on. Next up is a game that it was hard to rank because the game that it is similar to, I love. And it would probably be like 2 or 3 on this list, but it's basically the exact same game as another game that is already out, and I take points off for that. It's just not original. Now the art is incredible, and that is honestly the pull behind the game, is that they hired an actual photographer who has helped them sell and develop this game to take pictures that are just breathtaking. It's genuinely breathtaking pictures in this game, but it just is a Dixit clone. If you've ever played Dixit, it's a pretty fun game, and this is Keepers by Van RYDER Games, from the creators of Final Girl, which is in my top 10 favorite games of all time, so Van RYDER, don't get mad. But this one is just not a big hit for me. I saw it and was drawn to it because of my love for Final Girl and because of my love for Dixit, and I played it. I don't need both, and I'd rather have the incredible art that is put into Dixit than the pictures that are taken, even as beautiful as they are, in Keepers. So Keepers, unfortunately not a keeper for me, but will hopefully go to maybe a family that I know that has never played Dixit. I think this will be a game that I can give somebody who isn't a big board gamer, and they're gonna be like, yeah, this is a great game. I don't know why you're getting rid of this. So I'm gonna move this on to a person who doesn't have Dixit in their life. Number 8 is a game that was fun at first. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, not really for me. Not really for me and Emily. I think that this would be a hit for a family, and especially one who's maybe got some people in it who aren't deep into the hobby, who are trying to get into like programming games, who like cooperative based games, who like strategy involved, but are not in for like deep strategy games. This is what I'm talking about. It comes from Plaid Hat Games, and it's called Quirky Circuits. And this is a neat little programming game where you and another person will be working through a whole book of characters and scenarios that you're going to be playing cards for that will all be revealed at the same time, and that robot on the board will be programmed to do certain actions, and you have a limited amount of time before you need to finish a certain amount of things on the board, and all of you are working together to try to get those robots to do those things. And the way you do that is difficult at first, but after a while you start to develop, right, this like knowing look around the table that, oh, they're obviously, they played a forward-backward card. They're probably either going to get us to where we need to, or at least close to where we need to, or they're gonna back us out of a situation. Like, it just feels obvious after a while. And Emily and I, like, we maybe just needed something a little bit more crunch. And I would say that for us, decorum has hit that for us. It's a game that we go back to, and not knowing what the other person knows has been a little bit more difficult, and it's definitely a lot harder of a game. But this is a neat little, like, it's a neat programming game, and so if you are interested in that side of the hobby but want something that's gonna ease you into it, Quirky Circuits is maybe where it's at. And I realize as I'm going through these, I'm saying a lot more positives than I am negatives. A lot of these games were games I enjoyed, but they're just not ones that after a certain amount of plays I need to keep around. And that's a tough thing to admit sometimes, but I'm at the point where I honestly have to. I have to get rid of these games. They're taking up too much space. So it's not necessarily about like, oh, I don't like these, I'm getting rid of them. It's, I've played these enough, and I've gotten what I think I can get out of them in terms of enjoyment. I'm ready to move on now. That being said, these last two were not really hits with me or with anybody I've played them with. And this first one is cute. I actually liked it a little bit more than the people I played it with, but it's a game that has a neat concept, but every time we've played it, it's either ended quickly, and that's not fun, or the options out on the board are just not that interesting. And I'm talking about A Little Wordy by the Exploding Kittens company. This is like two-player Wordle, where each person at the beginning of the game is going to get a number of letters, and they're going to write down a secret word using all of those letters. And then after you're done, you're gonna hide that word and pass all of your letters to the opponent, and they'll pass all of their letters to you. And through a series of guesses, and also using these abilities to find out what letters aren't used, what letters are used, through abilities out on the board, you will be able to figure out their word, or they will figure it out first. And whoever figures out the opponent's word first wins the game. And A Little Wordy is neat, and I think that it could work for some people, but I don't see this lasting in anybody's collection for very long. It's neat, but then quickly wears off on you, I think. But that being said, if you like this A Little Wordy, then awesome. But for me, not a big hit. And then this last one is a very fair concept, and it's novel, and I never want to get to the end of a list, especially with games that I'm calling, and just badmouth anything about the game and the creators, and people be like, say, oh, I should never buy anything from this company. Know that this company actually has one of my favorite games out there. I think it's in my top, it's in my top 50, and it was an experience. It was probably one of my very first campaign games I ever finished, and I played it with Emily all the way through. And this is one of 2 games that came out last year from this same company, and it just wasn't that great. The ideas that went into it were funny and fun, and it just, all of the cohesion of it together just didn't work for my game group. And we left that play thinking, I don't know if we ever want to return to it. That being said, Voices in My Head by Unexpected Games is a game that I don't know who this is for. It's kind of a hidden deduction-y game where a few people at the table are going to be against you, and they're trying to get the, I guess, in-game goals their way rather than yours. But sometimes everybody at the table has just wildly different things, and like everybody could potentially win. Actually, I don't think that's actually true. I don't think that's actually possible. But a majority of the people at the table could win, or nobody at the table could win or get their way, I think. I'm not entirely sure all of the ins and outs of that. But it's a little too convoluted, I think, is my biggest qualm with it. A lot of good hidden deduction games make it very clear what you should do on your turn, and this one, it just feels very, very weird. Very quirky, very strange, and nobody really knew exactly what they should be doing. And maybe that was my problem. I was the teacher of the game, but by the end of it, I think people were still just as confused, didn't feel confident about winning, and were unsure of why they were doing certain actions, and that's not a good feeling to have all the way through a game. But if you're braver than me and you hear this and you think I could probably learn and teach that game a lot better and get people a lot more interested, go for it. But as for Tablenauts, it's just not a big hit. We are very appreciative of Unexpected Games sending us this and 3,000 Scoundrels, I think is the name of the other one, which is a lot more fun. And then also, thank you so much for making the Initiative, which is just a blast of a game. If you've yet to play that, what are you doing? Because it's just, do not miss that game. And I'm really excited to see what Unexpected Games does next, but this was definitely not a hit for me and my group. Very original, very cool and interesting, new mechanics I'd never seen before, but everything all together was just not very fun for us. So that is the last of my list. I will probably be needing to get rid of even more games here in the coming months, but for now, that's gonna give me the space I need for all the games that I talked about in the last video. Go check that one out if you're interested. And then on top of that, thank you so much for being here. If you like what you've seen, go check us out on Discord, or even check us out on where you find all podcasts, because we have a cool movie board game podcast where weekly we're going to be putting out stuff on our favorite movies and the movies that are coming out, and also board games that we've been playing. And it's just a blast because it's all a bunch of buddies just talking for a long time. We have a little bit of everything for everyone, so find what you like and join our community. Thanks for being here. Bye.